Hey, we're plunging into a book that's genuinely reshaped how millions worldwide see money and, well, financial freedom.
Ah, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
That's the one. Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lechter. Since it first came out, back in 1997, its global footprint has been just monumental.
Absolutely. It really prompted countless people to rethink their entire approach to wealth.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. This isn't your typical, dry finance textbook.
Not at all. It's very narrative driven.
Exactly. It's built around Robert Kiyosaki's own personal story. He creates this really vivid contrast between his poor dad, that's his biological father, highly educated but financially struggling.
Right. Despite the academic success.
And then there's his rich dad, his friend's father, much less formal schooling apparently, but achieved, remarkable financial success.
Hmm.
So our mission with this deep dive really is to give you a quick, sort of incisive shortcut to the core financial ideas and maybe some surprising facts hidden in this incredibly influential work.
Yeah. And what's really fascinating is where it sits. You find it in personal finance, sure, but fundamentally it acts like a powerful self-improvement guide.
That's a great way to put it.
It doesn't just hand out tips, it seriously challenges the whole framework of traditional financial education, how we think about accumulating wealth.
Okay.
So our conversation today, I think, aims to reveal how Kiyosaki uses this comparison, this lens, to really highlight how critical financial literacy is.
Hmm.
It shifts your perspective on what truly makes someone wealthy.
And it kicks off with probably its most famous lesson, right? The one that often unsettles people.
Oh yeah. Which one are you thinking of?
This stark difference between an asset and a liability. Kiyosaki just turns conventional wisdom on its head there.
Absolutely. Especially challenging that idea that your house is always your biggest asset.
Exactly. So how does he redefine these terms? What makes it so impactful?
Well, it's revolutionary because it forces this like brutal self-assessment. Kiyosaki essentially says, look, an asset puts money in your pocket.
Right.
Simple. And a liability takes money out of your pocket.
Right.
And most people, we tend to confuse assets with just stuff we own. A nice car, a big house.
Yeah, things that feel valuable.
But for Kiyosaki, if that car has a monthly payment draining your cash, it's a liability.
Okay.
And for many people, their primary home, while it's where you live, often acts more like a liability with the mortgage, the taxes, the upkeep, rather than something directly generating income.
So it's all about the cash flow.
Exactly. He pushes us to analyze the cash flow. Is it coming in or is it going out? That's the
Ah, that reevaluation of something so fundamental like your home, that's a total paradigm shift for so many readers.
It really is.
It forces you to look at every single purchase differently, doesn't it? And this distinction, it directly highlights another huge point. Kiyosaki hammers home the glaring gap in traditional education.
Oh, definitely.
Why do schools so often fail us when it comes to financial intelligence?
It's a profound oversight, isn't it? Rich Dad argues that true financial literacy, understanding investments, real estate, the tax system, even basic business structures.
Yeah.
That's the absolute bedrock of creating sustainable wealth.
Right.
Schools, traditionally, they teach you how to be a good employee, how to work hard for money.
Yeah, get good grades, get a safe job.
But Kiyosaki posits that the real game changer is learning how to make money work for you.
Okay.
It's not about just working harder on that hamster wheel. It's about understanding how to build your own, let's say, financial generator.
So it's about shifting from just trading your time for dollars to actively building things, assets that generate income even when you're not actively working, like while you're sleeping.
Precisely. That's a concept that really resonated with you, you said.
It really did. Moving beyond that relentless cycle of just working to pay the bills, which Kiyosaki famously calls the rat race.
Exactly. He's a huge champion of investing in assets, things like real estate or stocks, maybe businesses creating diversified income streams that aren't directly tied to your hours worked. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's really about making a fundamental shift in identity.
How so?
From being sort of perpetually an employee to becoming an owner, an investor, maybe even an entrepreneur.
Okay.
And that is what liberates you from that rat race where you're just constantly chasing the next paycheck to cover expenses.
But hang on, doesn't that involve a significant amount of risk? I mean, my poor dad, like Kiyosaki's, was all about job security, stability,
A very common concern.
whereas rich dad seemed to just dive headfirst into opportunities. How does Kiyosaki make the distinction between reckless gambling and what he considers like calculated risk?
That's a fantastic question and yeah, a very common one. Kiyosaki isn't really advocating for just blind leaps of faith.
Okay.
He argues that the real risk isn't in investing. The real risk is staying financially illiterate, not knowing what you're doing.
Ah, interesting. So knowledge is key.
Absolutely. He encourages learning about investments, understanding market dynamics, basically educating yourself to turn what looks like risk into an actual opportunity.
So knowledge reduces fear, essentially.
You could say that.
Uh-huh.
Poor Dad saw security only in a steady paycheck. But Rich Dad saw opportunity in understanding the financial mechanisms and taking educated risks to leverage them, not just random bets.
Which really boils down to a fundamental mindset shift, doesn't it?
Totally.
Instead of limiting yourself by saying, oh, I can't afford that, you should be asking, okay, how can I afford it?
Yes.
That subtle reframe, that shift to problem solving, it feels incredibly powerful when you think about it.
It truly is. The book argues pretty strongly that changing your internal dialogue, your mindset, is absolutely crucial for building wealth.
Right.
Moving from that position of limitation, I can't, to one of active inquiry, how can I?
Mhm.
It just unlocks entirely new possibilities.
It's proactive.
Exactly. It's about being proactive, constantly looking for solutions, and really believing in your ability to understand and navigate the financial world, rather than just being intimidated by it all.
Now, one of the things about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, despite these big, sometimes complex ideas, is its strength and its simplicity, right?
Yeah.
The language is almost story-like.
Very accessible.
Incredibly accessible, yeah. Doesn't matter your age or financial background, really. Kiyosaki's stories and examples, they just feel so real and kind of inspiring. It makes these complex ideas much easier to digest.
And that's remarkably effective in just raising awareness, isn't it?
Right.
Particularly for people who are maybe new to thinking about financial management.
Definitely.
The conversational tone, the way Robert talks with his rich dad in the book, it's grounded in these relatable scenarios.
Yeah.
It makes the principles feel quite actionable.
Yeah, you feel like you could actually do something.
Right. It genuinely motivates readers to rethink their spending habits, maybe their investment strategies. It acts as a really crucial wake-up call for a lot of people.
And the core message seems pretty universal.
It is remarkably universal and adaptable across different cultures too, which is part of its huge success.
Okay, but despite these strengths, the book isn't without its, let's say, discussions or criticisms.
True. No book is perfect.
Some critics point out that it often lacks specific, detailed financial strategies. Like, it's great at painting the big picture, but it doesn't exactly give you a step-by-step investment plan. What are some of the other common points people bring up when they analyze it?
Yeah, you've hit on a really common observation. It offers these general principles, but sometimes, perhaps intentionally, it does oversimplify quite complex financial concepts.
Like what, for example?
Well, for instance, while it heavily champions real estate investing,
Right, that's a big one.
the reality is that can be quite risky and intricate. It requires detailed local market knowledge, understanding leverage, financing. It's not just buy property, get rich.
Okay, fair point. Anything else?
There's also been some discussion around the rich dad character himself. Some have questioned whether he was a single real person or maybe a composite figure.
Ah, right. I've heard that too. Does that matter?
Well, for some readers, it has subtly influenced how they view the narrative's literal truth, though arguably it doesn't necessarily diminish the power of the lessons being taught.
The principles still stand, maybe.
Perhaps. Also, another point, especially for international audiences, say in countries like India, some of the specific examples may be relating to the U.S. tax system or specific types of real estate markets might not be directly relevant without some careful local adaptation.
That makes sense. Context is key.
Definitely. But, looking at the big picture, Rich Dad, Poor Dad has just been remarkably successful in spreading broad awareness about financial literacy and wealth creation. That's undeniable.
Yeah.
It consistently makes it clear that accumulating wealth needs more than just diligent hard work. Crucially, it requires the right mindset and, yes, essential financial knowledge.
It really feels like a fantastic starting point, doesn't it? A powerful catalyst for change.
Exactly, a catalyst.
The book is still highly recommended for anyone interested in financial freedom investment, especially, I think, for young and middle-class readers, which you can see reflected in its consistently high rating, usually around 4.5 out of 5.
And that universal message has had a profound impact globally.
It's particularly notable in places like India, actually.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, observers say it significantly helped popularize concepts like investment and asset creation in a society that traditionally might have relied more heavily on stable jobs and just straightforward savings.
So it opened up new ways of thinking about money there.
To a large extent, yes.
Yeah.
However, there's a crucial caveat, always.
Which is?
While it's incredibly inspiring, readers absolutely must understand their local market conditions, their local financial regulations, before just trying to apply its principles wholesale.
Right. The starting gun, like you said earlier, maybe not the detail piece now.
Precisely. You need local knowledge.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener? I think it really boils down to those key concepts we've explored today. Understanding that critical difference between assets and liabilities. What puts money in your pocket versus what takes it out.
Absolutely fundamental.
Recognizing the often overlooked importance of financial education outside of traditional schooling. Learning how money actually works.
Yeah, the stuff they don't teach you in class.
And embracing that really transformative power of shifting your mindset, moving from I can't afford it to asking that empowering question, okay, how can I afford it?
Which, thinking about the book's limitations we discussed, raises an important follow-up question, doesn't it?
Go on.
If Rich Dad Poor Dad is such a powerful catalyst for changing your financial mindset, but it intentionally doesn't provide those detailed step-by-step financial strategies,
At the how to.
then how do you, the listener, go about actively seeking and applying those specific nuanced financial plans, the ones inspired by the book's philosophy, to your own unique situation?
That's definitely something to reflect on as you consider your own next steps in bridging that very gap, moving along your journey to a real financial literacy.